You're welcome back, and newspapers ready. BNFT talks about checking imports of foreign furniture. Furniture manufacturers complaining about import. It is killing their business. We also talk about aviation on the BNFT. Government moves to reclaim FAA Category 1 status. If you remember, a bill has been passed in Parliament to ensure aviation safety. The final this morning says 10-point business reform plan to remove bottlenecks in doing business. Dr. Bawumia, the Vice President there, and the Chief of Staff is asking for effective communication of government policies, programs. She says it is vital. And that story from the Achimota Forest we talked about earlier, the place littered by people who go there to pray to God. The Vanguard, Truth and Integrity, it says, we will make Ghana ungovernable. Yamin backs. NPA launches LPG recirculation, and I am transforming Ghana's educational system. The president talking there. Those are the newspapers I have with me this morning. We'll talk more about the others. But my guest to do the talking this morning is a member of parliament for the Lejokuku constituency. He is a member of the NPP's communication team. Honorable Dr. Bernard Okobo is here. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, my brother.
And hope you're doing great.
By His grace.
And how's Lejokuku doing?
Yeah, so far, so good. Let me say a very good morning to all your viewers. We are doing fine in Lejokuku. Finally, we've seen some action from the contractor on the Teshi Link, that's the Lekma Road. And all my constituents are excited. We're just praying and hoping that the momentum that is being gathered would be sustained and not wane with time. And I think it's the one single project that affects so many lives, you know, in the constituency. I've always insisted that the Lekma Road is not going to only serve constituents in Lejokuku.
And
those who live in Nungwa, people from Sakumono, Spintex, Bachona, all of them. In fact, 80% of the users of that road are not from Teshi. They just have to pass through.
They use Teshi
to other places. So it's a road that would really transform the transport of citizens and goods. And we thank His Excellency for his commitment. You know, it's one of the things that I've really worried him about. We've had chats at home. I've visited him and all that. And he always tells me, Doc, this road is so important, we are going to do it. And it's taught me a very big lesson that in government, or if you are a citizen, don't be tired.
You need to keep asking.
Exactly. And you have to be very persistent. You have to be patient at the same time. You have to juxtapose the two, patience with persistence. And the end result is always a nice one. Yeah.
Grateful. We're still waiting for the rep from the NDC, Honorable Alhaji Suhini. He's a member of parliament for Tamale North. We're waiting for him, but quickly, let me draw your attention to perhaps, not too sure if you've been following the settings of the Public Accounts Committee, but your outfit, Kolebu, is in the news again. And I'm sure Kolebu is always in the news for not very good news, but
recently
you've been in the news for good news.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
all right.
Yes.
But I'm sure you've been following what's happening.
Yes.
Now, these issues about payments made to people, some not through the appropriate means, some suggesting that they don't deserve it, and the back and forth, if I don't deserve it, go to court. Is there a way to deal with these things?
You know, on a lighter note, before I come to this, let me say that I got here about 6:15, 6:20.
Right.
When I was in opposition, I worked very hard. And in government, we are working hard.
Okay.
So I expect the opposition to
be here early.
Yes. I know when it's demonstrations, they make the time, you know. So this is one of the most serious programs in the morning, and we have to attach that seriousness. So, Zuni, over to you.
I'll let Honorable Alhaji get the one tease here.
Yeah, and that's on a lighter note. I pray he gets here. You know, I believe that leadership is very important in transforming and restructuring organizations. And when His Excellency the President decided to be very gracious to me and made me the board chair, one of the things I told myself is to make sure that Korle Bu becomes better than it was. Better in terms of service delivery, better in the way it handles conflicts, better in the way it even deals with legal matters and everything. And you'll be surprised to know that since going to Korle Bu, we've had occasions where we could have behaved in the way that would have ended us in judgment debts, like you are reading. Let me put on record that these judgment debt issues coming were events that preceded my coming, or the new leadership over there, both the board and I think the chief executive.
The chief executive.
And I realized that sometimes in the past, there were some arbitrary actions that were taken without due diligence. And these are things that we can learn from. But I also have a sense that what was happening at the Attorney General's department, where there were instances where people came to approach government claiming judgment debts, and government was sort of soft in its approach, where it did not actually defend the state rigorously, and it was like it was a soft touch. It's like you approach government and you sort of get what you want without a lot of struggle. And there were instances where some of the monies paid were actually strictly not judgment debts. When I say strictly, it's not like there were arguments in court and the judge came to a conclusion that money should be paid. We had situations where settlements were made at the AG's office.
Right.
So you approach government that, look, my mother was killed 20 years ago. It was an unfair situation, and we go like, let's sit down and talk. And then we agree on $1 million. Go to a judge and tell the judge, look, this is a bad case. It's already settled. And the judge just stamps and says, go and pay. So
these are underhand dealings.
That's what I'm saying, that we've had some
situations
of those.
like that.
Exactly. Where when you look at the situation, we were not even, defending ourselves rigorously. And these were things that actually sort of were a cost or made the state bleed. Exactly. And since going there, we've been careful in our dealings. Look, we've had some new director appointments. When we decided to go the route of making sure that we get competent directors through a transparent manner, there were 2 directors who decided to sue myself, the board chair, and the whole board. I was calm. I stayed the process at Public Service Commission. And guess what? The courts took their time, went through the case, and threw away the rate and slapped charges against them. So now we've activated the process. Being patient is important, even in dealing with corporate matters. And let me say that since going to Korle Bu, the last time I remember one very classic case, someone wrote to us that their patient died, a relative died, and Korle Bu had to pay some huge money.
And he's blaming Korle Bu.
Exactly. And guess what I did? There were some senior people who were even convinced that we had to pay. So I called all the doctors that were involved.
Without proper investigation?
Exactly. I called the doctors that were involved, the team. And I'm like, tell me what happened. And you'll be amazed. These were doctors that went the extra mile to save this life, to the extent that the relatives of this patient came to the hospital to thank the medical team. And yet, somebody inside had leaked information and was going the path that we used to go. And look, I'm convinced that if I had not been the board chair or the leader, we would have entered some agreements and paid some monies. And I don't want to say, because I don't have evidence, that those who start these processes end up benefiting from the process.
Right.
But the lesson here is simple. As a state, we have to be diligent in our dealings. And even when it comes to the West, where we are sued, we must be careful the kind of settlements we enter. You remember Martin Amidu? He said when he was AG, he told Martin Odro that don't be quick to settle matters. Assuming the West, let it go to the courts. And these are things. So, it's the lessons. I don't take interest in blaming past regimes. But what is a fact is that the kind of leadership you have can either increase your liability or try to help you gain assets.
I'm grateful. Let's check what's on the Times this morning. We can continue our conversation whilst we wait for Honorable Alhaji Suhuyini. If you take a look at page 17 of the Ghanaian Times this morning, it talks about the I Group rejecting the militia tag, says it is a registered limited liability company. Now, the story says that the I Group, the organization at the center of Joy News' latest undercover documentary, has rejected the militia tag, saying it is a registered limited liability company with the sole aim of aiding unemployed people to get jobs. We are never a militia group We are not a militia group. We cannot be a militia group. Neither are we a vigilante group. We just want to help people get jobs and reduce the unemployment rate in the country. The company secretary, Ms. Tracy Asamoah, told the Times yesterday, she said the group currently has 5,000 members. They have been able to secure jobs for 2,000, and she gives the breakdown: 500 at the Forestry Commission, 600 in community policing, 400 in NAPCO, and she says others are in other sectors. She was reacting to that documentary. The story is well too known. Honorable Dr. Kruboy, the I group says it is not a militia group.
You know, before I go on this, you know, today is the birthday of the First Lady.
Oh, yeah. We missed it. Yes.
You know, she's my mom. Yeah. You know, so I want to take this opportunity. In fact, since the opposition is not here, I dedicate the whole show to her. In the office, the whole show. And I really wish her very well. You know, if you are practicing politics in Africa, your wife plays a very key role. Because the dynamics in Africa is not like elsewhere. I'm telling you. So we thank her for all the support, and it is my prayer that their reign, like we say in scriptural terms in the Bible, their reign will be very, very successful, and the legacy they will leave will be very enduring. So, Mrs. Akufo-Addo, this a special one to you. I'll be going to the office today. You know, there are many things. You know,
and happy birthday to all of us here at TV3. Certainly, we'll get in touch.
Look, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and I told him that in talking about vigilantism, my brother, and militia or whatever, there are two things involved. Either we want to solve the problem or want to score political points. Whoever is in opposition can score political points with this issue of vigilantism. But the problem will still be there. We can solve the problem if we will be honest as politicians. I practice politics. I'm still practicing. So what I'll say is that there's a history to these boys or guys who come together trying to take position and have TEFs when we are in government. The history is that most people who are not engaged or properly employed, you understand, they've created an industry where they work with politicians, serve them, assist them, help them with their security, and then when they come into power, they then use it as a leverage to get jobs to do.
They expect something.
Exactly. So there are individuals now who work at national security permanently, who got the opportunity to enter when a particular regime came into office.
Is it right?
No, God, I'm just telling you the history. I'm being candid.
No, but I'm asking, is it right?
You see, we'll talk to the rightness or not. But the issue is that, so there are people over the years who have succeeded in getting jobs because they worked and served politicians. I get what I'm saying? Good. I know individuals who immediately their party wins power, they take positions themselves. And sometimes it takes weeks and months for the party to sanitize the situation and either get them to enter jobs or put them at the right place. Most of these guys are unable to enter the army, unable to go into the police, but they enter national security. Why? The guidelines for entering the army and the police are stricter than entering national security. I get what I'm saying. So there's a latitude. Now, this exists on the books, my brother. So in the next 20 years, in the next 24 years, that's the minimum I'm envisaging. Should the NDC come into power, there is this latitude, there is this space for them to put individuals who are not properly cooked into the security. So how do we solve the problem? To solve the problem, let's put in the guidelines that make sure that just as you are not able to enter the army because you are with a party, you will not be able to enter the national security as well. But as it exists now, any government that comes through discretionary processes is able to put individuals into the national security. Majority of them are casual. Casual means that when the government exits, they go with the government. A few remnants are able to stay permanently. So there are individuals who got into national security during Rawlings's time. And guess what? When Kufuor came, they became more or less redundant because of trust issues. I get what I'm saying. So, my brother, I'm telling you how we solve the problem. Now, the I group, I just gave you a short history. So, my take is that to solve this problem permanently, let's put in guidelines that makes it very strict for you to enter, so that you enter just like the army. No matter the government that comes, it is difficult to find a half-baked person in the army. If you check their background, they are qualified. Even if, assuming the West, a politician brought them or succeeded in bringing them, they are so qualified and they go through the means, unlike national security.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Are you suggesting that there are no guidelines for entering the national security?
The guidelines are not as strict as the army.
You're sure about
that? Come on. Look, let me tell you.
Is it not the politicians who want to bend the rules
I'm coming. Now, let me
for their supporters?
It's not. You see, we are a country. That's why if we want to solve the problem, let's put in, we can call them guidelines, legislation, measures, whatever it is. What I know from my experience is that since we started 92, the Fourth Republic, individuals have entered national security. You understand? They have succeeded to be part of national security. Individuals that
because the politicians have bent the rules.
No, it's not bent. The latitude exists. Why don't they bend the rules in the army?
I can't walk to the national security.
No, don't you get what I'm saying?
I can't walk to the national
I'm not
security.
contesting you. Get my point.
But if I'm a member of a ruling party, I can.
See, let me tell you.
That's my argument.
I agree with you.
So it is the politician who is bending the rules.
Follow my argument. What I'm saying is that in national security, there are individuals who are very qualified. You know, there are individuals who are taken from other security organizations like army, fire services. Even there are people from GRE, the ports, customs, who work at national security. So they are fine, very qualified individuals with national security. But there is this latitude which makes it possible. When I say latitude, there is this space which makes it possible for governments to let individuals enter national security. Individuals that could in no way qualify to enter the army. I get what I'm saying?
I do.
So I agree with you that politicians are able to sponsor individuals to enter national security. I get the point.
Which is wrong.
You see, it's wrong. It is a structural problem. When I say structural, it means it is because that space exists. It has been abused over the years. So to solve the problem, it's not about the opposition saying that they are creating a vigilante group or a state that is insecure. Should they come into power, that space they would abuse again because it's been abused over the years. So my call is that close that space. You know what I'm saying? Look, right, in the next 20 years, you would ask me about vigilantism if we should have another government in power. I'm telling you where the problem is. That there is a latitude that makes it possible for the incumbent government to allow some people to enter national security. Are you getting it? Close the space. How do you close it? I know people who have told me, Doc, I want to go into police. Listen, they've told me, Doc, we want to go into army. Those people have not succeeded. There is no way I'm able to help them because the entry criteria is so strict. Now, are you getting the point now? I'm being honest with you.
I am not. Yes. I'm not getting it because you see, for instance, you bring in the police service, and as we sit here, we know that district chief executives, members of parliament, party chairmen are getting people, some of them unqualified, into the police service, into the fire service, into immigration. This is happening.
Yeah. You know what?
So it's the same thing.
Let me tell you something.
It is the politician bending the rules.
Let me tell you something. We have to be honest most of the time if we want to solve our problems. Even if a DCE sort of helps a citizen to get into the police, there is no way that citizen can get into the police if they don't meet the criteria that has been established. I don't know whether I get the point.
I do.
Yeah, I'm coming. You have to. You see, this must be open and frank discussions. We have a criteria that you have to meet before you enter police. If you fail on any of them and you are disqualified, now they fail online. If you fail and it says that you are disqualified, no politician anywhere, no citizen can help you. Assuming you qualify, if you approach someone who is related to the government or maybe related to police, I'll be honest with you, sometimes they're able to help you to become a police officer. Now, this is the point I want to make. As a country, the systems we have to put in place and the independence that institutions must get so that people get into those institutions purely based on the process. We've not gotten there yet. Right, I get what I'm saying. And I believe and I know that we'll get there. You know, I talked to one policeman who's a good friend at the Teshi Lejokuku, the municipal.
Yes.
You know what he told me? He said in those years, he told me how he got into the police. It was a fellow town person, someone in their village, who was a police officer, who came to their village and said, come, I want to help you guys get into the police. They did not have so much book background CV, but because they were willing to serve, they were conscripted into the police. You know what? He admits that now, because of the application online, difficult. Exactly. So the point I'm making is that, right, as we grow as a country, as institutions become very independent, these things which I admit exist, they would go down. They will go down. Exactly.
And so how are you relating it to the I group?
You know what? Let me talk about the I group. First of all, as someone who is practicing politics, there are people who take advantage of the relationship they have with the government. That's when they were in opposition. My brother, to misbehave.
We supported you in your primaries, and so certainly.
Yes. Even in my own constituency, there are people who, because of their relationship with the party, they show signs of misdemeanor. They try to misbehave sometimes. And as a leader, I go the extra mile to put them in check. Because when they misbehave, because they are known to be associated with Dr. Koboy or the party, the negative reportage will come to me. Right? Are you get what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, this I group, their operation or history of having met and operated at the Christianborg Castle. My brother, right, it's unacceptable. It is a grave error that shouldn't have existed. But because I appreciate how politics is done in this country, I'm not surprised that somebody who was related to us managed to bring people there under the guise of giving them a job. Now, another revelation that national security was engaging them, trying to get them out, tells you that we knew them. And honestly, they were treated with kid's glove because of their relationship with us. But you see, the leniency with which we dealt with them is bringing us all this, how do you call it, negative reportage. We have to quickly learn our lessons. Governments must make sure that they are very strict and firm in dealing with party people who try to create their own turf because of the relationship they have with us. Even in Lejokuku, sometimes you see somebody behaving like, look, I'm a security, when they have no locus. So, right, look, you remember those guys who tried to fight for President Atta Mills, may so rest in peace, in Cape Coast, when they met before security. Those gentlemen were trying to, they behave like they love President Mills than anybody. When President Mills came, you think they were working unemployed. They got something to do. Unfortunately, I have said it, because we have a system where people sometimes don't trust the police. They work with individuals who they think protect them. When they come to power, they want to give them a space to operate. As we grow as a country, the police must assert itself so that security within political parties, they become more irrelevant.
How do we stop what you've just explained?
Yeah.
How do we stop it? And so people who find themselves associated with certain political parties, certain political figures, now that person is in power and that person is misbehaving. How do we stop?
I think the first point of call is to have very strict codes of conduct for those who start working with us, not in government, even in opposition. Codes of conduct. You know, most of these guys that politicians we work with, there's no guidelines dictating their behavior. So sometimes most of them are impulsive. Let me not say some of them are impulsive. Look, I've dealt with people who are very disciplined when I was in opposition. I still work with them. Very disciplined guys. They take serious instructions. They try to make sure that they assist you so that nobody harms you. Look, I know gentlemen too. In fact, one particular guy who is very disruptive. He's been working with us. In fact, he was active in the party before I joined. Very disruptive guy. Has the propensity to misbehave. And most of the time, I spend a lot of energy trying to bring him under control. This is obviously a guy who has the tendency to bring us into a negative light. So the point I make is that the first point is to have codes of conduct. The second point is to make it clear to them that the fact that you've worked with the political party does not mean that the state is indebted to you and give you a job. We must be clear on these things. And we must be honest in telling them that we'll do our best to find them job, not necessarily in government. If now I have one person who works with me in the constituency, not all the time. When I'm going around, I give him something every month. I put him on more or less a salary, about 500 a month. I mean, he's cool. Anytime I'm going to a place where I don't have to go alone, maybe in the evening and all that, I work with him. You get what I mean? These are ways we can tell them we will assist you. The 500 a month is better than nothing. He's not saying that, Doc, take me to national security. You get what I mean? Now, the second point of call, my brother, I don't want to say this country, we talk a lot and we are not real. But Bright, see, this is a country where the #1 policeman must be appointed by the sitting president. This is a country where beyond major in the army, all other positions must go to Jubilee House to be vetted before you get, how do you call it, promotions. How can you be a country like that with such regulations and still come out and say that, why is the police not acting? So I've said it before, that the 1992 Constitution might have had good intentions for security of the state, for making sure there is this connection between the executive and the security corpus. But Bright, as we grow, we must make sure that the police is independent. The IGP himself, the #1 policeman, unconsciously, he's indebted to whoever sits as president. Why don't you have an arrangement where to become the IGP, there is an independent body. This body is a structural body set up by an act. You have, let's say, the Christian Council having a rep, Ghana Bar with a rep, GPRT with a rep, an unbiased independent group. That takes applications for policemen who think that they are fit to become IGPs.
They can lead the police service.
Right. If I've applied to become IGP and my power is not coming from a politician and I have a safe tenure of 4 or 5 years, if you misbehave as a politician on the road, I can get you and put you through the law. No fears. But we have a situation where even the Constitution with soldiers, look, the Chief of Defense Staff, who told you that
all of them,
it's not the soldiers who vote for him. So this is a country, we speak a lot. Where are the lawyers? You, the journalists.
Who has to start changing that?
All of us. We have something referred to as stakeholders.
We have leadership.
Every organization has stakeholders.
Which of our leaders should kickstart the process?
Unfortunately for you, I want to study leadership. Leadership is a function of 3 factors.
Who has to start the process?
I'm coming. Leadership is a function of 3 factors. 1, the leader. 2, the followers, in this case the citizens. And 3, the situation, which is the condition in this country. All of us must be active. You can start. I can start. Anybody can start. The most important thing is that we must be active. Active means that we must speak like the way we've discussed this. The more we speak about this, the more politicians will be pushed to do something. The more lawyers will come up with proposals. The more the legislature, which I belong to, will look at possible legislation to handle these issues. The I group are being arrogant because of the history we had. And this time, we have to be strict and firm with them. And you know that what puts me off mostly? They even were taking money from those they claimed they were going to help. If you want to help a citizen to get a job, do you go and operate at the Christian Bar Council?
All right.
When
we come back,
let me end with this.
Okay.
The last time when I spoke about vigilantism, I ended with this same thing. President Akufo-Addo has worked hard to bring on board some very powerful programs. The free SHS costs an average 1.5 billion Ghana cedis a year. This president has made sure that clearance has been given to over 53,000 health workers in 2 years. It's never happened before. But guess what? All these powerful achievements can be threatened, like they say, the little leaks that can sink the ship. By this, I don't want to use the word funny, by these guys who think that they work more than anybody when we're in opposition. We must deal with them in a very strict manner and make sure that we preserve the gains we've made.
I'm grateful. He's a member of parliament for the Lejokuku constituency, a member of the NPP. I'm still waiting for Alhaji Suhuyini. Now, when we come back from the break, the NPP, we're told, has concluded talks with Malaysia to halt vigilantism. And the NDC has responded to the president's letter to them. We will take a look at exactly what's in the NDC letter and how it goes as far as halting vigilantism is concerned. Stay there. We're back in a moment. Thanks so much for staying there. We're back on the show. Let me welcome Member of Parliament for Tamale North, a member of the NDC's team, Honorable Alhaji Suhuyini. Good morning.
Good morning, boss.
And thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's continue with the NDC's letter to the president. In response to the president's response, now a quick read of what the president said here. It says that the president says, your request for mediators and facilitators of the dialogue, I am dismayed, and I believe that the Ghanaian people share my dismay, that the two parties which have dominated and continue to dominate the politics of the Fourth Republic, who between them have garnered at least 95% of the votes in each of the 7 general elections of the Fourth Republic, who are the only parties currently represented in the 7th Parliament of the Fourth Republic, cannot meet to dialogue on matters of our nation's governance and political culture without the intervention of outsiders, including foreign entities, no matter how well-meaning. So the president, not too happy about the NDC's request asking for a mediator. Honorable Suhuyini, we have done some talking before you joined us, but let's stay on the letter, the response from the NDC. Still, the party
You're asking for NDC as for a mediator.
Exactly.
Who is that mediator?
The National Peace Council.
Yeah.
Is the party still insisting that there should be a mediator?
Well, let me say good morning to our viewers and good morning to my colleague, Dr. Chairman, and then also good morning to my constituents in Tamale North. A pleasure to be here once again. First of all, I think that it is clear that our president is more rhetorical than, action-oriented. Here is a man who has all the state's powers bestowed to him by the good people of this country as a result of the outcome of the 2016 general elections. Now, often we have said that our executive authority tend to have too much powers, and that is because of the kind of powers that, is given the executive in the Constitution. So we need to first understand that this is a man who has so much power and does not even need to legislate as he is threatening to if these meetings are not, feasible, but can simply employ the laws as they exist to deal with what everybody believes is a criminal, act. So if we find people, whatever name you call them, engage in what is criminal, and we know what they often engage in is criminal, he, as Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, have the powers, to deal with it. And so if he, ignores those powers because he has contributed so much to the situation as it pertains now and pretend to want a sort of a dialogue, the exchanges between him and the party chairman clearly expose him more. Because, why does he have an issue, for example, with a mediator? Why do we have ADR? When people have disagreements, or when people, let's say when they have disagreements, and there's a need for them to use the ADR method, that's the
Alternative dispute
resolution mechanism. Don't they have mediators? If mediators are not, fathomable, if they are not reasonable, like he wants people to believe, then why do we have mediators? You are talking about two entities that disagree on how to resolve a problem. For example, our party even thinks that, like I have started with my submission, that he has the power to even deal with it in the first place. And so, if he's not dealing with it, and then we also think that he has contributed so much to the situation. So those are points of disagreements even from the word go. So what will the two of us achieve? Then the talk of including all other stakeholders, the president seems to have a problem with it, as if he does not think that IPAC is necessary. Because he says that this is a matter that involves the two political parties. And so other political parties should not be involved. And I'm thinking, is that the kind of thinking or the level of appreciation that our president has? That is why everything seems to be running down in this country. You're talking about political vigilante groups as they have come to be known. You are not talking about, something to do with Makola. You're talking about political vigilante groups. That poses a threat to all political parties, because all political parties take part in elections. In fact, at Ayawaso Wagon, it wasn't just the NDC and the NDPP that was contesting. So, if you have a president who thinks that in this matter, all other stakeholders in the process don't matter, you wonder, first of all, if he's really a Democrat. But maybe he is not. Because whatever we have today that is bringing about this discussion, he has contributed immensely to. Remember that when he was in opposition, he was first to threaten. When some, rogues in Agbogboloshi attacked each other, instead of calling on the state to deal with the situation as a criminal matter, he addressed a press conference at which he said he will soon release militants on his side. Then he went further to, after the Etiwa by-elections, to praise the militants, because eventually he released those militants. And so he praised them and gloated about how they meted out violence to Dr. Hanabisu and co. when he said, Etiwa kura yechiro mo bibi kakra. And concluded with the all die be die statement, which later we're told was to charge the militants to action. So, and some of these people who are operating, like the revelation that we have had from Manasseh Azure, the gentleman in the center of the storm was his personal bodyguard. And I'm sure it's because of that association with the president that he had free access to the castle to operate the way he operated. So maybe really our president is not a Democrat. That is why he doesn't think that other stakeholders in the political process should be part of this discussion. Because if you look at the issues that are discussed at IPAC, some of the political parties that are involved in these discussions sometimes do not even make up to 0.1% when they go to the polls, but they are part of IPAC by the fact that they are registered political parties in this country. So if you are discussing something that is a threat to the politics of this country, to the democracy in general, all the stakeholders need to be included. And if you have such disagreements as noticed, even in the exchanges of the letters, it is the reason why you need an independent mediator. But then again, when you read the president's letter, you understand why education is in shambles. You understand why the economy is in tatters. You understand why the future of this country, in terms of policy direction in almost every sector, is difficult to comprehend. It's like the former president said, government as you go. They wake up in the morning, what is today's problem? Okay, let's brainstorm. Then an idea comes up. Let's do green track. Okay, let's privatize some schools. I mean, nothing really that has been well thought through, given a direction. And I see the thinking,
So the key thing is that without a mediator, the NPP and DC cannot talk.
No, you're talking about a major disagreement. I mean, right, let me just give you an example. Can you imagine if you walked out of here and introduced the vigilante topic and for the two of us to discuss it on this set? Just fathom what is going to happen. And that's the NPP NDC for you. So yes, we can have a discussion.
But it won't get a conclusion
without
a mediator.
Exactly. That is why even on this show, you had a mediator. So it just makes, common sense that on an issue like this, if you really want a solution, you need an independent mediator, like the Christian Council, like the Peace Council, like somebody who really does not have a direct stake in the politics that has led to the creation of these groups. But then again, right, I have always said that we are where we are because of the lies that the NPP have told themselves over the years and believed it. So when you talk about vigilante groups, you hear them say the NDC has the Azoka Boys. And they have been saying so from 2004.
The NDC has Azoka Boys, or they don't have.
They have been saying so from 2004. But really, I have said it on this platform before. Who are the Azoka Boys? Who really are they? Is it the same Azoka, a gentleman who is now our vice chairman? who, you know, by virtue of how he lived in his community, his one community in Tamale, had people with him who went to, because of his support for the NDC, an internal NDC conference and attacked Bidzidin and Francis SM. And that's when the Azoka boys was heard. Within an internal thing with his boys. Is it the same as Azoka boys who they say they saw at some by-election with horse whips? But what are we talking about today? Based on that one lie about an NDC having Azoka boys, they have moved from Kandahar to Bamba boys, to invisible forces, to bulldogs, to Delta forces, where they have armed them in some cases with weapons. That one lie of NDC having some so-called Azoka boys terrorizing people. But you have never had a situation where anybody associated to Azoka is even arrested with a pistol or a gun. Never.
Okay.
But you have this lie that they have told the nation over the years, and based on that lie, have gone up on to create all these groups. Now we have the I included, threatening our security. And so it is important that we let them understand that they have a bigger stake in resolving this matter. It is based on a lie that they have told themselves over the years that they have created this problem for us as a nation. But we are willing to help them because the nation wants us to help them to resolve it. But they must come to the table with some level of commitment and honesty.
Right.
All right, I'll come back to you. But Dr. Kobe, let's take some comments. I'll come back to you.
Very calm the whole time.
Yes. So let's take some comments and then I'll come back to
That's
you.
why
And
you
I'll
need
get
a
a chance for
mediator,
him
you
to
see.
react. So Johnny is
Very
back.
much, Senior
Yeah.
Bryce. We'll start off from Tilapia. He says, well, the eye at Oga's backyard. Perhaps that's why the NDC is calling for a mediator. Tilapia is our cartoonist here. And that looks like the chairman of the NDC with folded arms. The president is by the table, is asking the NDC chairman to sit down. And right behind the walls, there's a dog. Is this an Alsatian dog? Well, it said, let's dialogue on disbandment of vigilante groups. And Manasseh Azuri there over the wall with a camera, he's filming. Okay, so now let's go to WhatsApp. I'm sure there are a lot of messages that you would like to read this morning. It says, good morning, Bright and the entire crew of TV3. To end vigilantism as proposed by the president, there must be a mediator between both political parties, NDC and MPP, to serve as a third party on the agreement. Also, the president should rather disband the national security completely to avoid goats wearing the coat of lions for peace to prevail. Ibrahim Akaka in Wale Wale. Musa Abattoir in Kumasi says, Manasseh Azuri Awini investigated Jida. Nobody attacked his person. Manasseh clustered gift of Ford as corruption, and at the time sitting president JM mourning his late mother. Nobody threatened him. Now President Akufo-Addo is the commander-in-chief of armed forces. Manasseh Azuri Awini exposed militias training under his nose. He's receiving countless threats of on his life. People can't speak against the many wrongs happening under President Akufo-Addo for fear of their lives. We have the opportunity to return Ghana to a true democracy come 2020. It says, anyway, why has President Akufo-Addo failed to agree with the inclusion of the civil society in a dialogue to disband militia groups? What at all does government want? The I group is operating illegally, and I'll urge government to deal decisively with them and stop contradicting itself. Government spokesperson, especially Kojo Nkrumah, day in, day out, is worsening the issue by trying to defend the operations of the I group when we know for a fact they are hoodlums of the ruling MPP. Nothing more, nothing less. Alhaji Willie P. Fiekuma. Good morning. I and the Honorable MP say the Lekma Road has seen a facelift. May I know the kind he's referring to? I live there. Dr. Okoboy, where is the facelift? DJ Omale, why you're saying Goss, who says minority NDC sabotages every good thing MPP government is doing. They are nation wreckers and they don't want any good thing for us in the country. And also Vice President Bawumia has spoken well for vigilantes, so all political parties should listen in regards to Martin J. Kosa. The biggest problem Ghana has as a country is not the politician, but the so-called experts and the media. The minority should stop their egoisms and proud attitudes and sit with the MPP at the round table and find a perfect way to dialogue, dissolve and dismantle the vigilantism in the country, because we know that both MPP and NDC have vigilantes in their parties. President Akufo-Addo and his MPP are more than ready to let go their vigilante group. But what is preventing the NDC people to do the same? Yao Sankide in Taifa. Good morning, host. Ebenezer from Kwabena, that's his name, Welder Junction. We are not cowards like the MPP, and amounts of intimidation will stop us in criticizing them. We won't allow them to cower us at all. If they have people to invite, then they should invite Kennedy Ejapon. Mr. President Akufo-Addo, be ready for more criticism, because we have opened our eyes wide to expose every part of your government. We are not keeping quiet today, nor the days ahead. Good morning, TV3. My name is KK David from the Northern Region. Please help me ask our Vice President to tell our President and his government to be a job-giving government so that the youth can be job-lantis. We, the NAPCO trainees, are suffering because at post without allowance. So if anyone is in NAPCO and is giving the free chance to be part of the vigilantes group with benefits, wouldn't he or she take it? That's a question. Hello, my name good morning, TV3. My name is Amma from Cape Coast. Please, I'd like to ask the MPP party member when they're going to pay the double-track teachers. I mean, the teachers who were recruited last year in November. We have been working for 5 months now, and we haven't received a PESWA. How do we eat and work efficiently? And finally, good morning, Bright. I'm proud of Honorable Okoboy. He's an asset to the nation. I wish I was closer to him to learn more from him. He has made my day. May Allah bless him with long life and good health. Hassan, find him at Kolibu. He's also the board chairman there. Good morning, TV3. Mr. Bright, tell Honorable Okoboy to keep their super incompetent promise. 2018 was the same promise. Just 2 weeks ago, announced that the contractor coming on the following day. The contractor is still coming. Super incompetent people waiting for 2020. Niyama from Teshi CDR. Okoboy, what kind of facelift were you talking about?
I think maybe, I don't want to say you didn't listen well, but you said I mentioned that the contractor is gathering momentum. There's some work going on. I didn't say that the place has been transformed. Right.
Okay.
I started by saying that there are two things you can do with vigilantism as it is referred to in this country. Either you come to score political points like my brother has come to do this morning, or you help solve the problem. Look, he's talking about the executive having all the power, the president. That's what is referred, if you study leadership, as legitimate power. He's elected, given by law. But if legitimate power could have solved it, after Tripoli, after Tiwa, we shouldn't have had all those instances. Are you got what I'm saying? What it means is that this is a problem that has many facets, and that to solve it, you must engage a lot of people. You understand? Now, look, in this country, if you want to lead a country or an organization, you must have an idea of its history. We are a country that have gone through a lot of challenges with its vigilantism and election violence. In Tripoli, you understand, Professor Frimpong Boateng had to go and do surgery on an individual who had been shot openly. In fact, subsequently, the doctor that allowed Professor Frimpong Boateng to even use the facility was punished, was transferred. Why would we do this to ourselves? Because somebody assumes that when we are politicians, we are enemies. But that is not the case. So, Bright, my point is that if Suini, the NDC, asks for a mediator, it is not out of place. But what I expect them to do is to at least go to the table. And then when you sit to talk...
Without the mediator.
No, you don't get it. When you go to the table, it does not mean that automatically you are going to start the engagement. I hear what I'm saying. Sit, we are not enemies. Look, I don't want to mention the name. There was a leader here that was touted as very peaceful. He's a peacemaker. One of the biggest challenges I had with him as a practicing Christian is that he found it difficult to invite the then opposition leader to at least sit with him. Some of these things can be symbolic, but it sends a message that we are not enemies. The enemy is not Surini. The enemy is poverty. That's why we are here talking. We want to improve the lives of our people. You understand? Now, let me also make the point that in Etiwa and the rest, he said, the president said, you see the levels he took it. The president said Etiwa, Echombe Kakra. Why would a leader say that we resisted them and show that we can resist them? See, what President Mama said. Listen, you see, what President Mama said, that we have revolutionary roots. You see the narration, and that boot for boot. I don't blame President Mama, a fine gentleman. It's because of this fear that the government normally has the security forces in their pocket. Those in opposition normally go like, we will not allow injustice to be done to us. I get what I'm saying. Right. You have a leader. He is your presidential candidate. He is making those comments. It's because the underlying problem has not been addressed. The independence of the security. Are you getting it? So until we address some of these structural problems, every opposition leader is likely to talk in a way that shows that my people must... Look, at a point, even people made reference to resist oppressors rule. I get what I'm saying. when you are in opposition and you say it, the incumbent government goes like, look at him, he's violent. This was thrown at President Akufo-Addo. But you see, JM said it. I will not be quick to say JM is violent. I appreciate where he's coming from. His fear is that he's no more in charge of the state security. I get what I'm saying. But if I were JM, President Akufo-Addo, what he's trying to do, see, the short commission, let me conclude with this. When the short commission was established, leading people in their party said, oh, it's a ploy to cover up what happened. The hastiness. Later, what did they say? Oh, looking at their work, there are people who can be taken seriously. I get what I'm saying. Why didn't this country, I'll not say a president, set up a commission to investigate or go to court to make sure the guy who shot the guy individual at Tripoli was do you know the one who made the shot? He was caught on video, he's still working free. This is not to defend the past, but this to tell you that there are genuine reasons why a government found it difficult to arrest somebody who shoots openly. It's all this because of this relationship with the party. With the people. So, Bright, to solve the problem and not to score a political point, this country must work harder at making sure that our security institutions are independent. That is the only way that if I go into opposition, I will not be compelled or forced to try to have people who will be closer to me to help me work. And he said everything is started because of the way the president talks. At least I thank God that this place is not noisy like it used to be in the past. Those days when I come here, your generator makes so much noise. I have to shout before people hear me. At least that is an indication that this president is working. Right. President Akufo-Addo is ready. Let me conclude.
Dr. Okoboy, we cannot have a generator in the studio.
No, I didn't say this.
No, beyond that, the generator stopped working before they came to power.
Please. So, right, at least
the generator stopped working before they came to power.
Those times you hear some noise. When you ask, they tell you it's coming from far, from your machines. Look, Bright, let me conclude.
Okay, we're wrapping up.
For a government, are you in your position?
Unfortunately.
Right, for a government to restore programs, which the previous government themselves said was very difficult, it means that this president, Akufo-Addo, President Akufo-Addo, and this government is working very hard.
Okay, I'm grateful. Adam Sude, just 30 seconds for you.
First of all, I think that I should have started even my first submission by apologizing to viewers for my late arrival. It was due to circumstances beyond my control. But you see, there's something very interesting, right? And I want you and our viewers to take note of it. Anytime the NPP has its back against the wall, they go and do something against the nation, they speak patriotically. And they urge us all to discuss the issue patriotically and not parties and not based on party lines.
Patriotism is the best way to
and
go.
Not based on party lines. Anytime they commit a crime, anytime they know that the position they have taken on a matter affects the nation, then they urge us all to be citizens, and we should discuss the issues, as patriots and not as partisan people.
I like Suhini.
Even in saying that they are party people, and they are party people, and they are going to try. We are not going to.
Dr. Okoboy is MP for Lejokuku.
But you see, that's why they will shift from it.
I'm grateful for your time with us.
I came early. At least I should.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. We're grateful. I'm grateful. Because of time, I'm grateful.